So give me a little touch on this. I know you're not excited about Howard, but can you look at anything other than the F square?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, and to be honest, a new quarterback in yesterday, Jalen Tolbert, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So a very kind of, middle of the road day yesterday. But you're absolutely right, man. This is a tale of first half look competitive, second half, oh my God. So the first half, man, Howard looked like, they really, really had a chance. They went in the halftime tied 17-17. I'm like, oh, okay, Howard, you gonna get a chance to get your Ivy League non-conference W. But in true Howard fashion, the second half, man, they kind of came out and looked very, very flat. Could not get the running game going at all yesterday, whether it was the first half or the second half. Man, they looked a little bit dismal coming out of the second half. On the bright side of that, man, it was good to see Jay Sean Scroggins play yesterday, man. Young guy, man. Obviously, as a North Carolina Central grad, we've got our eyes on those guys that they got that's coming in. Jay Sean Scroggins came in yesterday, 4 of 6 for 61 yards. Didn't play a lot, but he got a chance to get some playing time yesterday, and he looked all right. He actually looked pretty good. So, maybe this is something for Howard to be able to build on for 2 or 3 years down the line. But as of right now, Howard's still Howard.
Yeah, shout out to my guy Marlon Brown. His son got him a one-hand snag yesterday.
Hey, he did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You talk about Howard is Howard. He sound like you with the Valley is Valley, Mike. Sticking with Mike. Yeah. Let's go to Tennessee State Tigers. They defeat as they improve to 2-4. That's 2 straight games, 1-0 in the conference. They defeat Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles and really blew them out early. And Tennessee Tech scored the last 2 touchdowns, at least make it look better than that, but
make it look respectable.
Golden Eagles go down 1-5, 0-3. What's your thoughts on this road victory for Tennessee State, Mike?
Yeah, they had a big 219-yard performance on the ground. So and Jalen Roos, he had a solid game. Drayden Ellis, he led the passing attack. He had 250 yards. So it was a solid performance. But I think the real ticker is the 3 turnovers. They forced 3 turnovers from Tennessee Tech. So their defense was on spot. They jumped off and really never let their foot off the gas pedal. They outgained Tennessee Tech, 470 yards, 320. Basically in the air, it was like 250 yards to 160. So they had pretty much every data point, every statistic that you look, and they won from wire to wire, except the last, few minutes of the game. I'd say it's more than a few minutes when Tennessee Tech was able to put 14 on the board, but solid performance by Tennessee State. No doubt. I think they who was that? Tennessee Tech scored with 13 minutes left and then 9 minutes left. And I think Tennessee said, well, hold up, let's hit the gas a little bit, but solid performance all around.
Charles, let me go to you for Jackson State as they take on Bethune-Cookman in Florida. That's Jacksonville, Florida. It sounds like Jackson State is trying to own Jacksonville as well. As they remain number 1, undefeated on the season, 6-0, 4-0. They defeat Bethune-Cookman Wildcats 1-5 as they fall to 1-5 on the season, 1-2 in the conference race. 48-8 was the score of the game. I'm not sure if it was close as even that 40-point loss looked. Charles Bishop, what were your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
Yeah, another huge game for Shedeur Sanders. Another 5-touchdown game. He had one against Florida A&M. Workmanlike performance by the offense. A couple hiccups. I think Shedeur had a couple of interceptions yesterday, and I think Coach Prime alluded to it in the post-game presser when he tries to elongate plays. It got him in trouble a couple of times yesterday. But offense, the big thing for the offense was they started out fast. And that was something that has been a bugaboo for the past few games in terms of coming out of the locker room, coming out guns a-blazing, if you will. And in this game, they were able to do that against Bethune-Cookman. But, again, the story every week for this football team is this defense. This defense really can, squeeze you to death like an anaconda. 166 total yards for Bethune-Cookman. And the thing that is impressive, although Bethune-Cookman's, record might not show it, but Jalen Jones is a tremendously athletic quarterback. He might be the most athletic quarterback in the conference when you talk about a quarterback who can run a 4.3. and Jackson State was able to bottle them up to the tune of 7 sacks. I mean, and they just kept coming at him with waves and waves of defenders. He couldn't get it into any flow whatsoever. But this defense, we say it every week, stop the run and force you into throwing the football, and that's where you play in Jackson State's hands.
Man, I know he's not able to go home to BethuneCookman, but somebody needs to make sure they find him a good ice bath, because after what he had to deal with against Tennessee State and Jackson State defensively, boy, it's been a rough 2 weeks in terms of what that looks like. Looks like we might have BJ Jones coming back in here. We'll save the Southern for a couple of folks to get their hands on it. But let's get in here with this Delaware State, Norfolk State. AD Drew, tell me your thoughts in terms of that matchup.
I don't know if this is saying more about Delaware State or Norfolk State, but the fact that Delaware State got their first victory in a BAC opener since 2014.
Wow.
Or the fact that it's their first road win against a BAC opponent, ironically, Norfolk State, since 2014 also. So are we seeing the rise of Delaware State for a coach who some people at preseason thought may be on the hot seat after 5 years or 4 years have not been successful? Or has that flame shifted down to the Bay, and Dawson Odoms now needs to worry about putting his rear end in some water to keep the flames cool from him? Because I wonder if he's getting the same heat in Virginia as he was getting in Louisiana as far as winnings come, because winning has not come at the way that people in the Bay are expected it to come. Just like when people in the Bluff thought they were going to be doing a lot better, they forced him out of town or helped him make his decision to leave to go out of town. We're just
talking about Southern. Let me go to BJ Jones as we got in here. I think he jumped off so he can put on that Southern shirt to make sure everybody seen it a little bit forward. I got you with the camera tricks.
Well, hold on, Doc. Hold on, Doc. There's a certain way that that you now have to say Dawson Odoms, right? BJ, can you help us with the correct pronunciation?
Oh, that's Josh.
That's Josh.
Oh, that's me.
Okay. Josh.
Dooms.
Dooms. Yes.
And
I'm sorry, it was Josh.
And he may be doomed.
He may be doomed. He may be.
Nah, he still has 4 years on contract. He got plenty of years to get it right. We'll see if he can get it right, because you're right. If it's up to the fans, he certainly is in trouble. But administration is not writing no checks for somebody for 4 years. With that being said, BJ Jones, let's get into this. Mumford Stadium, SWAC Western Division, number 6 Southern Jaguars. Improved to 4-3, 3-1 defeat. Number 3 Alcorn State Braves, 3-3, 2-1. Final score was 21-17. Jumped out on Alcorn early. Defensive stand from Southern. Everybody that listened to us said that front seven was serious coming in potentially for Southern, and they lived up to this game in terms of a potent attack, and they just were bludgeoning each other. And you get some wins from the Braves, you get some wins from Jaguars, but the final one was that 4th down stop. It was huge. But BJ Jones, what were your thoughts on this matchup?
Man, the big ones, man, I was hoping that those first half opportunities that we squandered didn't come back to bite us. I'm talking about the same thing that happened in the Benedict and Albany State. We had a pass to the number 19 Ligon. If he's running, he's still running today. But he stopped and tried to jump up for the ball. Then we missed a wide open receiver. If he catches it and run it, he's still running it today. Louisiana State Troopers would have had to stop him. That was 14 points that were missing, and it would have changed the entire complexity of that game, because instead of being up 21 to 7, now we're talking about being up 35-7 early. And credit to Alcorn, they took advantage of it. They hung in there. That run game, we saw the maturation of that quarterback on yesterday with the passes that he threw an interception early, then threw another one. Man, so much credit to that Alcorn defense and that offensive line. for everything Southern's defensive line is, they kept their quarterback clean in the second half. You saw them kind of mix up the run and the pass, and man, it was just another classic Southern Alcorn battle that we're just accustomed to getting in this rivalry. And first time being Alcorn 2 years back to back. I think in 34 years was the stat.
Wow.
So this was big.
Oh, great point. When you put that data point in there, I'm gonna let Charles. I know he wanted to touch on this a little bit. He wanted to say that third down stop that they got late in the game, that they forced the field goal instead of look like maybe Alcorn had a chance to tie it. Ultimately, obviously, was big as well. Talking about that defense as they couldn't get many stops, but the twos they got were crucial. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, obviously, I thought one of the storylines in the game was because Southern slowed down Alcorn's rushing attack, but I was very impressed by the fact that they were able to get after Alcorn's quarterback. They got him for 5 sacks, and I thought that was going to be the determinant in the game for me, which defensive line could take over in this game. And Southern's defensive line, not only was they able to hold down Alcorn's running game, but they were able to get after quarterback, 5 sacks. Inverse of that, Southern was able to keep their quarterback clean. He was only sacked 1 time in that game, and Alcorn came into that game. They led the SWAC in sacks. So that was huge for me in terms of what Southern was able to do in terms of keeping McCray upright.
I guess one thing to put some magnitude on it, you got the 2 leading rushing teams in the SWAC. Southern came in this game averaging 238 yards per game on the ground. Alcorn slightly below it, about 210. For this game, Alcorn only had 113, 114, so about 100 below their average, whereas Southern had 170. So you can tell that Southern, that just gives you an idea. They held them 100 yards below their season average, and they are the second leading team in the SWAC. So that gives you a magnitude of how well that line performed.
I'll tell you this. I don't know what all is going on October 29th. You better figure out a way to get to Jackson, Mississippi, October 29th.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Problem is, we got too many homecomings. Folks going
Damn, you homecoming.
I know, right?
October 29th.
They'll be watching on their phone.
I don't know what's going on October 29th. But you better figure out a way to get to Jackson, Mississippi. I hear you, AJ. I hear you. I know, fam, you got, but bruh.
Dude, we got.
I could care less about the football game than homecoming on that day.
Already booked hotel rooms, flights. Rules, you ain't giving all that up. Prairie View, we be down there. Texas Southern got a homecoming. I don't know who scheduled all this. I looked at
I don't know either. Who scheduled all these homecomings?
I already got stuck with one flight I can't use. I can't take another one.
Yeah. But I did want to go back to that Thursday night game where the world got to see North Carolina Central. There's been somebody on here has been saying that quite a bit about Central. And I think a lot of folks were talking about Morgan State, that they were moving in another direction. Well, it wasn't going to happen on Thursday. North Carolina Central Eagles improved to 5-1, 1-0, defeat Morgan State Bears 2-4, 0-2, and really took them to the woodshed early in that game. The final score was 59-20, and boy, the Eagles looked good. They were clicking on everything. You said they're number 2. I wouldn't be surprised, even in Dr. Cavill's great poll rankings, that they jumped back up there to number 2 with everything else that took place. But currently they're at number 4. Joshua Sims, talk about this matchup. The other side, if you would, of the track, your resident MEAC. Make sure that we share some love over that. We having all this fun in the SWAC, but some things taking place in the MEAC as well.
Yeah, man. I know it was Separation Saturday, but this week it was Thrashing Thursday. To say the least, man. Listen, just a couple points here, and I made these points both here in the sports lab as well as on HBCU Nightly. I talked about the fact that going into the Campbell game, which is now for us was weeks ago, we were a little banged up. We had some issues, especially on the offensive line. Some guys were banged up, some guys were hurt, and we got a chance to go into the bye week and get healthy. But another piece to that was that Davius Richard was a little banged up. A lot of the country did not know that Davius Richard was having an ankle issue going into that game against Campbell. And so he had a chance to get healthy. The kids were on fall break, so they had no distractions on campus. The girlfriend had to leave them alone. They were miles and miles away from all of the other mess. But to say the least, man, obviously I could talk about our defense and how they stepped up. But I am going to take a moment right now to talk about Davius Richard. All right. Not named Shedeur Sanders. This kid is the best quarterback in HBCU football, bar none. And I'm willing to go out on every single media publication and say it with my chest wide open in the air. Davius Richard, 17 of 24 for 217 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Then he comes back and he said, no, I don't want to just give you the passing touchdowns. Let me give you a couple of them on the ground. 2 rushing touchdowns that night as well as a big 40-yard run that he took, and he bust the whole stadium went crazy when he had to cut back and take that touchdown to the house. We have a big game this week against South Carolina State, and it does kind of allow us an opportunity to really cement ourselves. Last year, we lost to South Carolina State by 3 points. That's the only game we lost inside the conference last year. And I remember seeing these guys' faces last year during that game. What I am willing to say right here on HBCU Sports Lab is it does not even come close to that. I will not say South Carolina State's name after today for the rest of the week. The rest of the week, I'm going to just say the team down in Orangeburg. I'm going to say we playing the team down in Orangeburg. Great win by them yesterday. I know they weren't on there. They got a great win yesterday, but it was against Virginia Lynchburg, which we all know has become a freaking problem.
Yeah.
I
think they're in third place in the MEAC right now.
They are. They in third place in the MEAC without a win. So to say the least, man, we were incredibly proud of what we saw Thursday night. But what you guys are going to see on Saturday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. in Orangeburg, South Carolina, is what I'm going to be ready to come back on here next Sunday and talk about. I cannot wait, man. Davius Richard for the Walter Payton Award too, by the way.
Perfect setup. We've extended this a little bit. We're going to get into our last quarter as we get a little extension on this. Get into talking about Virginia Lynchburg. They get to go get a taste of that gumbo in Baton Rouge next week as well. So they're going to get some swag love.
Hey, Josh, that was nice.
Stuck it in at the end.
Yeah. As he talked about, we'll go back on the other side and we'll talk about some of these big-time matchups coming this week. Stick with us after this last break. We'll come back and give you our final quarter, final thoughts in terms of what's going on and any maybe final midterm grades that people didn't get to talk about there. Stick with us. Hope you're enjoying it, getting all into it, giving you some updates in terms of matchups that took place Saturday. But it's already time to turn the page, at least for the lab, as we look at week number 7. We get into it. Big time matchup. Things are getting done, getting going. Stick with us after this last break. We'll be back for the fourth quarter. Get it up. It's time to get it up. 4 quarters, baby.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
We'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
They're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplify Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplify Development Services.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Dr. Cavill's Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We have the professors as well, BJ Jones, Joshua Sims Sr., and AD Drew, giving you updates. We're getting into our last quarter, and this is where we turn the page. As I said, we start looking up to this upcoming weekend. Some big matchups should be fascinating. Let me start with Charles. What are some of your big matchups this week? I think I know where you're going. At least that's where my eyes are turning to.
Yeah, obviously, I think Jackson State and Campbell is going to be huge for obvious reasons. You got an out-of-conference game, SWAC versus the Big South. But for a lot of people, a lot of fans around HBCU football, that somehow a win against Campbell would legitimize Jackson State for whatever reason. We see, out-of-conference teams or Big South teams as some sort of, I don't know, pinnacle of success, if you will. I don't know. But for a lot of fans, I think that's going to be one of those games where it's just like, oh, okay, they for real. I'll take them serious now. So, I think that's going to be a great game. I think Campbell started off great in the Big South Conference, big win this past week after kind of starting off in the hole. But they are, from looking at them on film already with the coaches, they are big up front. They are fast, and they started off great, I think, in the Big South. It's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. I think Jackson State will finally be healthy. BJ mentioned if you haven't seen all the pieces, well, now some of those pieces will start to come back for Jackson State. We'll probably see Travis. And we saw Shiloh this past week. Shiloh had an impact in that Bethune-Cookman game. But True Thompson is another name that I want everybody to keep an eye on, defensive tackle from Florida State.
Great point. And I hate, but it was true for the way you put it there in terms of pinnacle. I think what makes this interesting is because where we're tracking and trending. Obviously, a lot of people thought the potential matchups in the Celebration Bowl were going to be Jackson State. Obviously, folks also thought about Southern in terms of that matchup potentially. But coming out of the MEAC, most people thinking South Carolina State was written in there and had it done. We'll talk about that maybe matchup as Joshua Sims kind of alluded to it, so I know what direction he's probably going, and I'll go to him next. But what's interesting to me about Campbell is they happen to play 3 of the top 10 teams now currently in there. And so it's interesting to kind of see how those matchups will play, particularly if it's trending that Jackson State will ultimately play North Carolina Central. It's not always where you have matchups where you can look at it between teams. So with Central already playing Campbell, they played them on the road, so you got to take that into factor. But now you have Campbell coming in to play Jackson. That's another measuring stick to see if those two teams face off. And then you obviously had A&T and Central playing early. We know how that played off. But you have that in terms of a concert rate for A&T trying to get their bid to the playoffs. So that's, to me, more where the intrigue comes in, not necessarily this litmus test. That you're right, that there will be some people that talk about. But
litmus test. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. That's other folks looking at it in a different framework, not the social structure or the governance structure. If you allow me to get into some of those Africana studies thought process, not too many people can hold on to that. Let me go to Joshua Sims Sr. Where are you going this weekend in terms of your matchup of the week?
Yeah, Doc, man, that was an incredible segue to really the importance of this game this weekend too, and same with the seeming importance that's going down in Jackson State this weekend. But man, we've got to travel, and when I say we, I'm talking about North Carolina Central. 1801 Fayetteville Street has got to roll up in Orangeburg, South Carolina this Saturday, 1:30 kickoff. That is our opportunity to cement ourselves as the top dog. We thought we really were the top dog last year. We were very hamstrung with injuries last year, but not to make any excuses, and we lost by 3 points to them last year. Didn't lose another game in the MEAC. This year, we are 100% or as close to 100% healthy as we've been in a long time. Coach Oliver has his program installed into our football program for sure now. And so now we have an opportunity to put the buses on the road, those Eagle with that bird on the side of the buses on the road Saturday, and really get a chance to make a signature victory inside of the MEAC. For those who may not know, we have not beaten South Carolina State in our last 3 matchups.
Mm.
So not only is this an opportunity for us to really kind of submit ourselves from that perspective, but it is also our opportunity to really say, hey, our offense is for real. We're young, man. And I've been telling people that we're so young that this could be the start of a run for us in the MEAC for the next couple years. Obviously, one game at a time, one season at a time. But depending on which North Carolina Central football team shows up in Orangeburg on Saturday will dictate how the rest of this season ends up going. And we hope that everybody get a chance to see our brand. You had a chance to see it on national television on Thursday this past week. You'll get a chance to see it on prime time. I don't know if we plan on ESPNU or not, or if it's ESPN Plus, but you'll get a chance to see us on prime time in the best way we possibly can to really kind of exude ourselves and really dominate that game, man. I am really, really excited about that game. I will be in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Again, I don't miss very many North Carolina Central games, as y'all can tell. So I will be there. My expectation is that we roll, and hopefully we roll big.
Yeah, we need you there because we want that insight. Make sure we see and watch.
Media Pass J. Call me Media Pass J then.
Yeah, we got you. We got you inside the lab. We'll make sure you get whatever media you need. BJ Jones, what direction you going this week?
Man. I was just talking about statements. I think that Prairie View has an opportunity to step outside the conference. They face off against Lamar. I think that's a potential statement for the Southwestern Athletic Conference, as well as Jackson State and Campbell. I think that's another statement that the conference can make. 2 non-conference games coming later on in the year, where the SWAC can make a statement about the trajectory of this conference and where we're ultimately headed. And I think also in the MEAC, Josh said it better than I can tell you. North Carolina Central and South Carolina State. South Carolina State ain't dead. You got to kill them. All right, and they're not going to do it they're not going to do it for you. You're going to have to do it. And I think people are going to look at South Carolina State and go, well, they're not a good football team this year, but when their backs are against the wall, look at the history of Buddy Pugh and that football program. When their backs are against the wall, how they come out and compete. That's going to be an amazing game in Orangeburg. And if you're a fan of black college football, that's one of the ones that you got to be locked in on, because that's going to tell us a lot about who's going to represent the MEAC as far as the Celebration Bowl.
Yeah, when you think about it, other than that A&T game, all the games they lost in terms of their HBCU matchup have been tough, grind-out games. So it will be fascinating to see that matchup because it means so much in terms of what that looks like as the season continues to progress. And no one has won a championship. That's not the point we're making here, but that's the direction we're going. With that being said, Mike, what direction are you going in terms of your matchup this week?
Obviously, I think BJ said it with Prairie View. I'm keeping my eye on that one. I think Lamar is 0-3 in the conference, 0-6 overall. Prairie View's kind of, dare I say, a little bit middle of the pack with the SWAC. A couple of games they should have lost. They should have beat Abilene. So do they step up and play, like we know Prairie View can be? Do they correct some of the deficiencies in the passing game, and do they come out of Beaumont, Texas with a win? The other one is Benedict, going down. If you look at the history of that game, I have to do the data crunching and go back 10 years. I wonder who has the advantage. I think Albany State has the advantage, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, in that matchup. Here is Benedict coming in number 1, going down to Albany. What's really gonna happen? What's gonna come out? And I think I go back to AD's point. How are the voters going to look at Benedict now if they are able to come out with a win?
Great points. AD Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of match this week? We all dominated by the major division. You got any major division direction you want to go, or are you going to stay with the major as well?
I got to go small school, mid major, under D1, or whatever you want to coin the phrase. While it looks like the CIAA is pretty much settled with Union, looks like they're going to come out the North. Fayetteville look like they're going to come out of the South. The SIAC still has plenty of intrigue. Let's start off in the SIAC West, where Tuskegee and Lane play this week in the other Jackson, Charles. That would be Jackson, Tennessee, Charles. Lane plays in Jackson, Tennessee, not Jackson, Mississippi. The other Jackson. Just want to make sure you remember that for all y'all Jackson State folks. But no, that game will pretty much determine the SIAC West and who is the front runner in the SIAC West. Tuskegee wins. Tuskegee pretty much has sewn up the West, where Lane wins, and now we got to start playing Stat Nerd and see if we could potentially have a 2 to a 3-way tie in the SIAC West. Flip it over to the East. Got a trap game for Fort Valley as they play Clark Atlanta, who just beat Savannah and who has scared the bejesus out of a lot of people this year. And for Albany State, they actually traveled to Savannah State in a game where Fort Valley, Albany State have to win out. They have to make their Fountain City Classic game relevant on November 5th. So these two teams have to win out. And last but not least, hopefully Benedict does not get the big head against Morehouse and has it come down against Morehouse and plays down to Morehouse's stuff.
Great points. I want to give a shout out for some of these teams that got their first win on the season. St. Augustine got it done against Johnson C. Smith, 28-21. Winston-Salem State upset Shaw, 17-10 in terms of that matchup. And Texas College, y'all forgot about Texas College. Texas College got a win on the season as well after they got one against Arkansas Baptist. But they got another win. So shout out to Texas College in terms of getting some of those wins. And those two teams are getting their first wins on the season. That'll do it for us.
Doc, real quick, I made some correct. My wife was in my ear, so my corrections are toddled off. So I wanted to say my point was, can Benedict move forward after their win? I guess I was saying. So I was a little bit off. My wife's trying to call me about an emergency, so I apologize for that. And I was looking at numbers real wrong. So my point was, can Benedict move forward after a win, and what's Albany State gonna do? So I'm sorry about that. Wrong data points. So
no problem. We certainly understand with them emergencies and when
I got to jump off. So sorry.
Yep, no problem. With that being said, we're gonna call it a close. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and our guest of the day, AD Drew, BJ Jones, and Joshua Sims Sr. Again, I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, we will thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, and on Sunday at 9, as we wake you up and give you a week in review. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's DRKENYATTACAVIL. That's DRKENYATTACAVIL. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. With that said, make sure you follow BJ Jones on Tuesday as he breaks down the Twitter Spaces. Joshua Sims on Wednesday as he gets it done as well on Twitter Spaces. Check out the pregame show as they give you those live updates. That's Wednesday, and pregame as they get it. As you can tell, the pregame show, they'll give you all the insights that you need. And as they drop things throughout the week as well, check that out. AD Drew, Brian, and AD on Sports Rap. They'll drop some nuggets tonight. Make sure you tune them in as they continue to give it. On Wednesday, you got the O&G Strike Zone. And on Saturday, Carlos will give you the update in terms of what he gets done, giving you some insight in Southern. Good information going on there, as he, I'm sure, will be smiling as he has Charles Edmond from Alcorn on the show. That should be an interesting matchup as they stay cool this past Saturday. But coming back in next Saturday, I'm sure it'll be a lot of excitement as well with the follow-up. That'll do it for us. Dream big, continue to move forward. We'll talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
DJ Jones?
Lecture.
AD Drew?
Dismiss.